Welcome everyone to the 2023 edition of the information session for the West Virginia University DNP Nurse Anesthetist program. We are a program in our admitting our fourth cohort this fall. The folks that you see on this screen belong to the class of 2025. They are now just beginning clinical. They have been in clinical for about 60 hours. The last 4 weeks, we get a little introductory experience in the third semester, and they'll be on their way to a full clinical rotation starting this fall after we take a program break next week. In terms of an overview of the program, if you've seen any prior presentations that we've posted on our website, the program overview is the Doctor of Nursing Practice degree that we award from this program. It requires 88 credits of your time and money, which we'll talk about later on. It is a full-time hybrid curriculum. So full-time meaning that it meets all of the full-time requirements of the university, from semester to semester, and we'll express to you in pretty concrete terms just how much time that means. And then it's a hybrid curriculum, meaning we're a mix of online and face-to-face coursework. We were accredited first in October of 2019 for the standard initial 5 years that the Council on Accreditation of Nurse Anesthesia Educational Programs affords to new programs. And so we've been in operation since 2019. We take a maximum of 15 students per cohort. Now, by way of introductions, I am Aaron Ostrowski. I'm the program director, founding faculty member of this program. I've been at West Virginia University since 2017. I've been in practice as a CRNA since 2001. I trained at the University of Pittsburgh, and I've been involved with SRNA education since 2008. To the top right, you see Dr. Kellen Smith. He is the assistant program director. He started at our program in 2021 as a lecturer and took over for Dr. Frame, who you see in the bottom left, who is the assistant program director from 2019 to 2022. Dr. Smith has been in practice since 2013. He practices at one of our clinical sites, Potomac Valley Hospital. It's part of WVU Medicine in Kaiser, West Virginia. And Dr. Frame, bottom left, is been in practice since 2004. And he's been involved with students' education since 2017, both in the classroom and in the clinical realm. Brenda Dean is our administrative associate, as you see her pictured on the bottom right. Our other faculty members include Professor Julie Linton. She's been involved with our program since 2021. She's been in practice since 2016. She's been an advocate for the profession since her student years. I've known Julie both as a student and now as a colleague in practice and in faculty. And then Dr. Jeffries is a lecturer that is part of our program. She came on board a little over a year ago in 2022. She's been in practice. We graduated in the same year from different schools. Since 2001, she's served as a clinical coordinator for student nurse anesthetists at her area of practice in Charleston, at Charleston Area Medical Center. And she's been involved in many different cases over the years. And our faculty really has a complementary skill set to it. So where some of us may be more experienced, more higher acuity cases. Others are experienced in the pediatrics and obstetrics realms, and we have a very complementary faculty. In terms of the hybrid curriculum, as I said before, it's a mix of online and face-to-face classes. There are 30 credits of online and core DNP courses. We've actually incorporated a couple more online courses. Dr. Frame's several anesthesia courses are online at this time. He's teaching from Charleston. We have and then the balance of face-to-face nurse anesthesia, I call them specialty courses, and those do require attendance, of course, in Morgantown in person. We have 15 credits of clinical practicum courses. I'll kind of map all of these out for you, and then 7 credits of DNP project courses. So in terms of our progression plan, we do have this posted on our primary website, but I've broken down the different types of courses. And if you look at the bottom, you can kind of see the types of courses that are listed here. So we have core DNP courses. Oh my gosh, did I start? Yes, I did start recording. The core DNP courses are what you see in the red blocks. So as you can see, there are, if you count them up, there are 10. The 10 courses are courses that speak to the Doctor of Nursing practice essentials that really are the kind of the bedrock of the advanced nursing practice degree. So we do have an advanced patho course, research statistics, scientific underpinnings, which kind of introduces you to the DNP role, like what is a DNP, APRN. Advanced pharmacotherapeutics, so a pharmacology course, advanced lifespan assessment, evidence-based practice methods, which gets you introduced to your DNP project topic that you can then develop in the project later on. Later intermingled in other courses include population health promotion, a healthcare technology course with a focus on information technology, healthcare leadership, then healthcare issues, ethics, and policy. Our next block of courses include all of the anesthesia specialty courses. You see the title at the bottom, nurse anesthesia courses. If you note that all of the semesters have an anesthesia course involved with it, included in it, early on, even though you're not starting clinical, or getting a lot of heavy anesthesia in the first 2 semesters, you're getting something. We want to introduce you in the first semester to the standards of practice, what's expected of you as a professional, and give you an overview of the nurse anesthesia role. In the second semester, we start hitting you with some of the scientific principles associated with anesthesia and genetics, chemistry, and physics. We also go into the gas machine in that semester. The next semester in the summer, we start with Foundations series of courses. There are 2 of them that introduce you to the basic principles of anesthesia and really prepare you to enter clinical late in that summer. So that is where the people that you saw posted, pictured in the very first slide, those folks started clinical this semester. And everything about our program is to build from a simple to a complex continuum of practice and preparation. So we start with foundational principles and move, as you can see later on, through advanced principles. And there's no magic here. This is a lot of this language is really prescribed in terms of our curriculum by our accrediting body. So that is kind of what determines how our educational program can be fundamentally structured, but then we can add some bells and whistles onto the program as we move forward. So if you see the foundational courses and the advanced principles courses, you can also note on the year 3, professional issues in nurse anesthesia. That's a course that we've taken as if you can see that the number associated with that is 740B. And if you look in year 1 in the fall, you can see 740A. Those are kind of like sister courses that I consider the buns in the anesthesia sandwich. We introduce you to the profession early on and then teach you a bunch of things, have you go through a number of rotations. Then by the beginning of your third year, we have another professional issues course that now that you've developed some perspective of your experience in anesthesia, we can start talking about some of the issues that our profession faces. So that's kind of the approach with that. Then in the year 3 spring semester, you see the business management and finance and nurse anesthesia practice course. That is designed to take what I've perceived as maybe an area for improvement among our nurse anesthesia colleagues and teaches them about managing a business, how to be a manager, taking control of personal finances, and also to understand how anesthesia is reimbursed and to really prepare CRNAs to be business-minded. And by no means is this going to qualify you for an MBA, but it's going to give you a good foundation for you to grow as a professional and to be wise in your business practices. Then in the final semester, we have a built-in evidence-based anesthesia review course. We do rely on the APEX anesthesia review curriculum that is a good adjunct to a lot of our courses. And we also utilize that in our review for the anesthesia curriculum overall. The DNP project is a big piece of the doctoral degree. It's the deliverable, it's the scholarly work that sets what has used to be a master's level program to today's doctoral programs that you see in your nurse anesthesia programs. And in a School of Nursing, the Doctor of Nursing practice degree is what will be the degree that you earn. And schools that are based in non-nursing school programs, those programs will award you the DNAP, or Doctor of Nurse Anesthesia Practice. So if they're the core unit of a program based in a health system or something like that, you'll get a DNAP. But since our school is based in the School of Nursing, you get a DNP, and the deliverable doctoral project is the DNP project. So it's an integrated parallel process to the specialty courses and clinical training that you do in our program. So projects can include quality improvement, policy analysis, evaluation, among other things. So objectives include assessing the practice environment. And I do want you to be aware, and I'll talk a little bit more about this, but our program, our university, our School of Nursing helps with this part in a partnership that we have with WVU Medicine. Next step would be to determine if there are any variances from national benchmarks or best evidence. And then we guide you in the refining and addressing of a practice problem. So the objectives are to take that problem and critically appraise existing literature and to look for solutions so that you can design an initiative to address the practice problem. Once there's an initiative proposed, the next step is to seek approval from the school and to recruit support from the host institution. Next comes the implementation of the project, the collection of data. The student then evaluates the outcomes with the guidance from faculty. And then in the final phase, writes up a manuscript and presents the outcomes at a formal presentation. We don't call the kind of culmination of the doctoral project process defense or dissertation. It's called the DNP presentation. Nothing super fancy, but that's what it does. What I want is something that's newer in this presentation that I do want you guys to think about when you are looking at different programs out there, is to look into the doctoral project overall. And this can apply to DNP projects and DNAP program projects as well. So asking of the school, what qualifies as a doctoral project? So what kind of deliverables do you want? And then when does the doctoral project start? And when is it projected to finish? Is it something that starts earlier in the process of the school or in the process of the program and the progression plan? Or is it something that kind of gets tacked on to the last year? How much time is dedicated in the curriculum to doctoral work? Is it something that almost has to happen beyond what the current curriculum is, or is it kind of structured within the curriculum? And then how are the project ideas generated and vetted? You want to do a doctoral project that is manageable, that is reasonable, that is not too big to perhaps extend beyond your time in the program, but you don't want it to be so trivial that it's really a waste of your time and the faculty's time. So how are those ideas generated and vetted? Then finally, what is the advisory process for the project? Like, what is your relationship to your project mentor or chair or leader, among the faculty? So you want to kind of figure out those things. And so we'll talk about that. Now, so to answer some of those questions, we get you into the project early. And as I mentioned before, we have evidence-based practice methods in the second semester. And we start in that course helping you to figure out what projects might be good for you to take on. And that also really comes from a relationship that we have with WVU Medicine and their quality improvement team. And there are a number of physicians, advanced practice practitioners, nurses, and other types that serve on that, from administration as well, that serve on that committee. And they are aware of all of the health system needs and can really give a lot of concrete problems that our students can work on. And so we can start kind of feeding you those problems, and you can start looking into those things in evidence-based practice methods. And then in DNP project development in the first summer of year one, you'll start to put together a DNP project proposal. And as you are paired up with a faculty of record is our term for the project mentor. And then in subsequent semesters, take 1 credit each of DNP project implementation, basically through year 2. And the goal is by the fall of year 3 to be done with the project, so that in the last 2 semesters of year 3, you can focus on board review and accumulating clinical hours. And I'll get to the clinical hours piece in a minute. Now you see DNP project presentation in the final semester, that nursing 832. That's there kind of for looks. Is if you can get the project implementation complete, you can do project presentation at any point in that final year. And for some reason, if your project is on greased rails, you can do your project presentation even in year 2. So that's the plan. And it's been largely very successful at this point. Everybody's gotten completed in a timely fashion. All right, clinical commitment. So the standard is always going to be coming from our Council on Accreditation, our accrediting body for nurse anesthesia educational programs. So COA minimums that apply as of 2022 include each student completing at least 2,000 hours of clinical practice, and then completing 650 cases of their own. And that should occur over that period of time of clinical, of course, in the program. First-time pass rates, which alludes to what is the success of graduates in passing the National Board of Certification and Recertification of Nurse Anesthetist National Certification Exam. The COA requires an 80% first-time pass rate. So we finally have data to share. We did not last year because the class of 2022 did not graduate until December. The class of 2022 statistics were that they each, on average, completed 2,466 hours of clinical time and were able to acquire experience in 860 anesthesia cases. And then our first group taking boards were able to achieve the 80% first-time pass rate threshold. So our program is in good standing as far as its pass rate. Now, you guys don't know me, but I'm not an 80%er. I don't like B's. So I wasn't happy with that pass rate. However, the silver lining in that is that we can only get better from there. And with recruiting quality students such as yourselves, perhaps we can make that 80% much higher in the future. As far as clinical sites, we have 20 of them. They are spread throughout the, I usually say tri-state area, but actually we have 4 states in mind here. So while we're centered there in the middle of the graphic in Morgantown, you can see the blue dot for Morgantown. We have 20 sites spaced throughout West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. So you can come to our program with a compact license that has the multi-state option chosen for your nursing license, and that would qualify for West Virginia because West Virginia is part of the compact as well as Maryland. Pennsylvania and Ohio have passed compact legislation, but has yet to take effect. So we have clinical sites, 3 of them in Pennsylvania, the 1 in Ohio, we have 2 in Maryland, and the rest are West Virginia sites. And we have a mix of clinical sites that have practice models from the team anesthesia approach. The majority of them are like that, but then we have 5 clinical sites that are CRNA only. And so you do get the full spectrum of practice models out there. Now, as far as clinical time, you can see in these blocks the clinical practicum courses that we have throughout our curriculum. So you don't see any in the first couple semesters. We have just a lecture for those first 2 semesters that get the DNP project courses, those core DNP courses completed with a couple of anesthesia courses sprinkled in, but then clinical practicum starts in the Foundations Clinical Practicum 1 course. And again, that's where our current students in the class of 2025 are, and they're literally completing that semester tomorrow. Then they'll be up for our regular clinical practicum schedule, which includes time requirements between 300 and 450 hours. You can see on this particular slide that the expectation for the fall and spring of this coming year for the class of 2025 is to get 300 hours in each of the next 3 semesters. So in the fall, spring, and summer, 300 hours each semester. And then starting in the fall of year 3, the expectation will be 450, and then 300 hours. Now, you might be asking why there isn't just a natural progression up to 450 in the last semester. If you note at the top, fall and spring semesters are 15 weeks and summer semesters are 12 weeks. If you have ever attended a summer semester, they are abbreviated, and it is just tough to fit 450 hours into a 12-week schedule with an academic load. And so I have edited this particular slide to reflect that we switched what was a 2-credit course in the fall of year 3. We increased it to a 3-credit course to enable you to get 450 hours over a longer period of time. It just was proportionally a better fit. So the progression plan that is posted, I think, currently on our website is being changed. That'll change here in the next couple days. I sent out a notice today to have that changed, but this is the accurate information. So this gets a student to meeting the minimum numbers of hours per semester to about 2,160 hours, so 2,160 hours. But you can, as you saw, our students were able to achieve more than that overall. We believe in simulation and that it does an excellent preparation for clinical. We do that at our STEPS Center at the West Virginia Simulation Training and Education for Patient Safety Center. So STEPS for short, much easier. But simulation and workshops are weaved throughout the curriculum. There's an estimated 65 hours of that activity per student. And it's important to practice those critical skills before patient contact, having to implement those critical skills. So whether it's a simple oral intubation in the first semester, or if it's going through our advanced to difficult airway workshops later on, we're doing the difficult technical skills on mannequins and other trainer devices before we do them on real people. So you can see the kind of sequence of courses and the associated simulations and workshops in each course. I have scheduled just recently for October, as you can see at the bottom, our pain management cadaver workshop, our partnership with our morgue at Ruby. They have a partnership with the School of Medicine for those patients who expire and have a desire to donate their body to learning and medicine. Those patients are preserved and are utilized for cadaver training. And our School of Medicine has used it for years, but I wanted to explore an opportunity for our students to work on what was once live human tissue, but real human tissue, to do ultrasound guided peripheral nerve blocks. And that was a raging success. I felt with our first cohort, they were able to get about 13 pain blocks a piece that day. And there is an opportunity to get clinical numbers that account for your graduation experiences through simulation for peripheral nerve blocks. So that's an excellent opportunity, and you have to get at least 10 of them, and our students were able to meet their needs just through that workshop alone. However, our clinical sites do have plenty of opportunities for peripheral nerve blocks as well, but this really gets you sharp on how to do those. So just a couple of pictures now of our simulations. So on the left was actually our first OR. This is now one of our other simulation rooms that we don't use that often, because we now have a full-fledged real OR that is used by us. It's used by the School of Medicine. It's used by our surgical fellowships. So it has OR lights, an OR table, the whole 9 yards. So if you've come to pay a visit already and have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And if you want to come and see it, please do. On the right, one of our graduates, Megan, is practicing ultrasound guided femoral line insertions. And that's a part of our CVC training that we do in the second year. This is just a happy faces after the central line workshop from our first cohort. And 6 of them have been retained to work at Ruby Memorial Hospital, our flagship hospital clinical site. And then the rest of the group has kind of dispersed. Several went to Virginia, one went to Oklahoma, another in Illinois, and another in South Carolina, and I know I'm forgetting somebody. So people are spreading out. We also encourage getting involved in the profession, so going to professional meetings. This happened to be the West Virginia Association of Nurse Anesthetists annual meeting. This was in Glade Springs in, I think, October of 21. So we encourage everybody to get involved. Now, that's all the good stuff. Let's talk about the stuff that may not be as pleasant, but everything does have its price. And I have the most updated information for you for tuition. So you can see resident and non-resident per semester tuition rates. And there is, you can see university tuition, university fees, then health sciences center nursing tuition. Nursing tuition stays the same, whether you're in-state or out-of-state. What is different is the university's tuition. West Virginia University is a land grant institution. If you haven't heard that before, you'll hear that on the in multitudes when you're a student in the program. But there is a focus on the university at large to train West Virginians to ultimately stay and take care of West Virginians, especially in the health professions. So there is an incentivized financial situation for residents to stay in the state and attend West Virginia University. So that does create somewhat of a burden for non-residents. However, that is how the university structure is. Now, you can see an additional list of fees on the right. And you can see that the fees, of course, are the same for residents and non-residents above the tuition lines. They total out at about $16,612. But if you look more closely at the list, you can see a couple of things, including clinical site housing, and then health insurance. Health insurance is something that can be waived if you have another resource for health insurance, whether it's a spouse or some other resource. So that subtotal of additional fees can be reduced substantially with some like that. Now, the other thing I put up here is that at the bottom you have housing, travel, and lifestyle, and it can be really variable as to what you are willing to do. Can you live on ramen, or do you need to have caviar? It's kind of that type of questioning. And in terms of housing, we've looked at partnering up our clinical site rotations, where not everybody can stay in Morgantown for the entire duration of clinical rotations. You don't want to. There's so much to see out there in West Virginia. We can look at, do you have family? Do you have friends? Do you have any connection to West Virginians that can put you at a clinical site that's, easy for you to travel to and from? There was a student that bought a camper and stayed remotely in the camper at the clinical site, and used it that way. So a lot of creativity out there. So it's something to think about. Time commitment is the other thing. So cost and time. So all of this experience that we give you and teaching that we give you takes time and money. In terms of time, clinical time can be broken down into about a half of an FTE of your time if you calculate roughly 2,000 hours over 6+ semesters, with clinical preparation taking 1 to 2 hours per night. Class time is really just at purely 1 clock hour per credit hour per week. So depending on the semester's number of credits, I estimated 8 to 12 hours per week, depending on the semester, and that would be 0.25 FTEs. And then reading, writing, and study time outside of the class, we allocate and estimate for the student to spend 3 clock hours per credit hour per week working outside of the classroom on what we've basically assigned. So that could accumulate quickly up to 24 to 40 hours per week. That can range from a half to a full FTE. So you kind of do the math and you see that come up that could be like at times working 2 full-time jobs in this program. So that begs the question, is it really feasible to work while you're in the program? And in reality, I think if you ask some current students, they would say that perhaps in the first couple of semesters, it's possible that you could hold a job and on a part-time basis and do your work. However, by the 3rd semester, it probably gets rather untenable to be able to do that. It just gets to be impossible. So that's a pretty common feature among all nurse anesthesia programs. If you've heard differently out there, I don't know. I'd love to hear about it. If there's a way to do it, maybe I'd consider. But I think any CRNA that I know these days, when you reflect on what they had to do, it was nearly impossible to hold a regular job. So admissions criteria that you might be interested in. You need to be eligible for admission to the West Virginia University. So that I'm not talking about just the program, I'm talking about the university at large. So they have actually separate criteria from the program itself. Now, the program is more, I'm trying to search for the word, I guess more restrictive than the university's admission criteria. But the one thing that is caught up in one prior situation with an applicant was that their program was accredited, but the larger institution was not. And that was a hang-up for one applicant. So that was an interesting experience. And of course, you have to have a BSN from a nationally accredited nursing program. So that would be program accreditation. And then a minimum of GPA of a 3.0 on a 4.0 scale. Now that is an overall GPA and the BSN GPA. So we do split out the courses that you took that were specific to nursing and give you a separate GPA from the overall GPA. So that does get broken out, and that's specified in our admission criteria on the website. Critical care experience, there's 1 year required. That's an accreditation requirement, but those are minimum requirements. Programs can be more picky, and I do prefer 2 to 3 years of nursing experience. And I've been comfortable with that preference. Then AHA certifications. So the certifications that you get for basic life support and advanced cardiac life support have to come from the American Heart Association. And I was curious as to why in the past year when someone asked me about, I think the American Red Cross certifications. It's because a lot of employers and therefore clinical sites that we have require AHA certifications. So that's what you want to have. We ask you to get 3 recommendations from several peers. So it can be a colleague that you work with currently, ideally a person that you had in your training, a professor or instructor that could write something to your work ethic and whatnot as a student. And then another, perhaps a CRNA or someone like that can speak, and ideally perhaps a supervisor in your current job. So those 3 recommendations would be ideal. And then there's a prompt for a writing a sample. It's not really an essay, but it does give you an idea of what to write. And if you just follow it and have someone review it and proof it for you, it can bode well for your scoring in our rubric. And then qualified applicants will be invited for an interview. And then you also must be eligible for an unrestricted RN license in West Virginia. The admissions process is actually open right now. So our applications open August 1st. They close November 1st. Applications are then screened for completion. We do get some grace on the transcripts and such to come in by mid-November. We hope for everything to be complete so that we can call for scheduling of an interview. And we typically interview via Zoom in January on a couple of dates. And if you want to come for a tour at any time through the process, I'm happy to take you around and meet with you. That's what I've been doing them personally for since we began the program. So I've been happy to meet those of you who have come already, and I look forward to meeting others. But we can show you the School of Nursing, Health Sciences Center, the STEPS Simulation Center, and just chat. Decisions are finalized by February, and that usually involves having a final meeting with the admissions committee after sifting through our interview. What do you want to call it? Our interview decisions. And then we make those calls in early February. Now, what makes WVU different? So we've been very progressive, I think, in the past few years, really just since we even started the first cohort, and reducing barriers to admission. So initially we required a GRE, and we got rid of that after really the first year. Most recently, we got rid of some course prerequisites. Initially, we asked for proof of health assessment and a statistics course, and we've gotten rid of that requirement. And then most recently, we've whittled it down to requiring BLS and ACLS for admission, but then requiring PALS before clinical activities begin. So that would be getting PALS sometime in the first semester or 2. Now, you may elect that if you get admitted, that you would just go ahead and get PALS since you're going to need it in the interim between admission and enrollment into the program. That's about an 8-month span there. That can be something you get off your checklist, but you don't need PALS to be admitted. What makes WV different? We have smaller cohorts. We have 15, and I think that that's been a size that I like, and I like to get to know each of you guys individually. And when we go to graduation, we'll all have a familiarity with each other as faculty and students, and that's what I desired in this program. We have passionate faculty, we have involved faculty, we care about the profession, we care about you guys and gals, and we work to achieve a good balance of our time with you guys. The early DNP work includes a high mentor to student ratio, meaning that there aren't many students assigned to any one faculty. You could get assigned to have a DNP project faculty of record that's not a CRNA, but if that's the case, then you would have a CRNA on your committee from among the faculty in our group. So that is an accreditation requirement, and we have that capability in spades. And then you do get the full scope of clinical training as a CRNA. Not only will you do a lot of the higher acuity cases in cardiac and neurosurgery and trauma and obstetrics and pediatrics, but you will be able to do that in a T model, but also in a CRNA only model, where you will make the preoperative assessments, make an anesthetic plan, execute that plan with a mentor that's a CRNA with you, and then evaluate that patient postoperatively and determine, if they're fit for discharge or whatnot, and in writing orders and all of that stuff. So we do train you in the full scope of what a CRNA does. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. So I see something in the chat. I'm going to stop sharing and pause recording.